first speaker is Ms. Tiffany Dunn, and her topic is state takeover. Ms. Dunn, welcome.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Dunn. I'm a National Board Certified ESL teacher at a wonderful school, Lassiter. At our November 13th faculty meeting, we were told by our administration we are operating as if we are already under state control. This was said twice for emphasis. My question to you is why? JCPS parents, teachers, and stakeholders fought hard and made it clear we had no interest in being controlled by a privatization-minded, predatory State Board of Education and commissioner. We succeeded, but only to have our district wave the white flag anyway. What does operating as if we are under state control look like, you ask? Our professional learning communities have been hijacked. We have district personnel sit in on every single meeting. Instead of having collegial conversations about student learning, we are being forced to give common assessments on the same day, no matter where we are in our teaching, and then analyze the contrived data as if it's legitimate. We are also being told that we have to do project-based learning, the same project as our PLC members. Have any of you looked at the research on PBLs? It's dismal. John Hattie has it at a 0.15 effect size. What does this mean? Well, to be considered effective, it should be at a 0.4. PBL effectiveness even falls behind charter and religious schools, which are not surprisingly much better. This type of control is not only an attack on teacher autonomy, it's an attack on student learning. Along with the classroom control, we have become obsessed with map testing and student data. We are losing precious class time to assess students. Most appalling is that ESL and ECE students are being denied their reader accommodation on the reading portion of the map test. So these results aren't even reliable or legitimate. Next Tuesday, our school is having a reward day for students based on map growth. We are losing 2 more class periods of instruction, and less than 1/3 of our 6th grade students qualified. I ask you, why are we using data for rewards? What are we trying to accomplish? Shame students into learning as if they're trying to do poorly? Wayne and his cronies want nothing more than to see us fail. It fits their narrative and it will line their pockets. Following a takeover agenda will only get us one place: taken over. It was and always will be the end goal. Instead, JCPS needs to align itself with research-based strategies, not data mining. Teachers should be treated as the experts, not babysat by district and school administrators. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn, for being here this evening. Our second speaker is Gay Edelman, and her topic is putting students first. Welcome, Ms. Edelman.
I sure hope that teacher does not experience any retribution for speaking up for her students tonight. No teacher should ever experience negative consequences for doing what's best for their students, and that includes our teachers who speak out against these threats of privatization and excessive testing and everything that goes along with it. Dear JCPS, my name is Gay Adelman. I'm the co-founder of Dear JCPS and Save Our Schools Kentucky. In May of 2016, I stood up here and told the current board chair he needed to put the interests of our students ahead of the interests of privatizers. He didn't listen, and he's gone now. In August of 2016, Dear JCPS co-founder Erin Corbelow stood here and told Dr. Hargens that we gave her a vote of no confidence because she worried more about what business leaders thought than about doing what was best for students. She's also gone now. In fact, the first time I spoke to this board was in 2013, before Dr. Pruitt was even the commissioner. Only 2 of you are still here. And here Wayne Lewis comes in from nowhere telling you how to fix JCPS, and you jump through every hoop he sets for you. Don't worry about them. The superintendent reports to this board reports to us, the voters. Our students are your customers. The customer comes first. That's one time you should listen to the business leaders in this community. Not Frankfurt, not business and chamber leaders who probably don't have kids in our schools, and not these disingenuous, ALEC-funded fake grassroots groups. Because no matter what you do, it's a shell game, it's a moving target. They're going to find a way to say our schools are failing, so you might as well do what you know is right. Not only did voters keep out the privatizers from our district, we pushed back on a state takeover and charter school funding. While we weren't pleased with the compromise because we knew it would lead to more of the same, living in fear of being taken over, here we find ourselves living in fear of being taken over. You've gotten a 2-year stay of execution. Use it. Spend it doing what's best for students, especially our most vulnerable, not jumping through hoops for unqualified outsiders with a privatization agenda. Here's something I don't think the community understands. What may be fine for mainstream students, like many of ours, is not fine for our most vulnerable, especially when you have a district of choice like we do. I did not realize this until I saw it firsthand as a Shawnee parent. When you have choice and diversity, two things we treasure, you cannot allow them to use these qualities against us to destroy our district in the process. Fight back and help them understand this. When you treat students as data, in the aggregate, the average, the statistics, instead of the wet clay that they actually are, you learn to manipulate it to give you what you need to make Frankfurt happy instead of giving each student what they need individually to reach their full potential. Our most vulnerable students are the ones who end up being used as pawns to make the data look good for the adults. We know these practices are abusive. They've told us. Resist doing what you know is harmful. Give exceptions. Fight back for schools with high needs populations for vulnerable students, because what works for the mainstream often throws our most vulnerable students under the bus, and we're losing a generation of kids. If any elected official has a problem with our district cutting back on this state-mandated abuse, let him say so publicly so we know to vote them out. Put students first, not in aggregate, not in averages, not data points, not the mainstream. All students, especially the most vulnerable. Support excellent teachers like Ms. Dunn. Allow her to do what she knows to be best for her students, and everything else will follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Edelman, for being here this evening. Our next speaker is going to speak on JCPS Division of Security, and I have a first name but not a last name. So if your first name is Michael, would you please come to the table to address us? And Michael, would you please share your last name, just because we need it as part of the presentation. Please, sir. Pretty please.
Michael McLeod.
Thank you, sir.
All right. We write on behalf of Black Lives Matter Louisville, the Alliance for Educational Justice and Advancement Project's national office, to oppose the district-wide plan to eliminate contracts that employ school police officers in favor of an internal school security force. Our organizations are committed to ensuring that racial justice factors into attempts to achieve educational equity, and we found it imperative to share our perspective on this proposal. We offer our comments in light of the recent anniversary of the assault of 2 young men perpetuated by school police officers at Jeffersontown High School in November 2017, as well as with the recognition that increasing investment in law enforcement personnel fundamentally fails to make schools safer for students. Instead of pouring money into a division of school security, Jefferson County Public Schools should allocate resources to counseling services, mental health supports, positive behavioral interventions, restorative justice programs, and other methods that create holistically beneficial learning environments for young people. The proliferation of law enforcement in our nation's schools is a pressing and alarming issue. The Alliance for Educational Justice and Advancement Project's national office recently released a report, We Came to Learn, which chronicles the history of school policing in the United States and the ongoing harms that students, particularly Black and brown, LGBTQ, and differently abled students, face at the hands of school police officers. According to most recent data released by the U.S. Department of Education Civil Rights Data Collection for the 15-16 academic year, Black students represent 15% of enrollment in public schools across the country, yet they account for 31% of students who were referred to law enforcement or arrested. Incredibly, while constituting only 17% of school enrollment, Black girls represent 43% of girls arrested at school. Research shows that higher discipline rates for students of color are not due to higher rates of misbehavior, but instead race. These disproportionate harms to Black and brown children persist not only throughout the country, but also within JCPS. Black students disproportionately receive in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension, expulsion, and referrals to law enforcement across the district. For example, although black students only represent 36.7% of district-wide enrollment during the 15-16 academic year. They accounted for 67.2% of all expulsions. 78 schools across Jefferson County Public Schools had sworn law enforcement officers during that academic year, increasing the likelihood that students are unjustly criminalized for age-appropriate behavior. Although ending the contracts that employ school police officers in Jefferson County Public Schools is certainly a step in the right direction, creating a division of school security is a step backwards that will not improve school safety and places students at risk of criminalization and physical harm. Creating a division of school security also siphons off funds that should be otherwise used for alternative schools, policing that effectively improve school climate. Instead of moving forward with the adoption of division of school security, we urge you to take a few alternative steps. Invest the money that is currently being used for SRO contracts into counseling services and expand mental health support services. Hold 2 public forums prior to the beginning of the 1920 school year to hear from Jefferson County Public School parents and students with specific ways to create safe, supportive learning environments that do not rely on policing and criminalization. Form a district-wide restorative justice task force to address the issues. Concerning the division of school security proposal, we urge you to redirect the $2.4 million expense and the $8.8 million that will be required to maintain the program annually to hiring diverse teachers and school professionals who can provide the counseling services JCPS students deserve. In the meantime, we invite you to contact us with any questions you or your office may have. Thank you for your attention to this urgent matter.
Thank you for being here this evening. Thank you to our 3 speakers that were here. We're going to move on now with action items. And the first item that will be discussed is the recommendation for approval of the 2018-19 Comprehensive District Improvement Plan. Dr. Polio, would you like to introduce that, please?